You're watching LWT. Now, this week's edition of the London programme.
These boys and girls are meant to be working together to build a raft, but togetherness is the last thing on display. The girls have been pushed into one corner while the boys dominate the equipment. And what's happening here is all too often mirrored in schools.
You have a right to choose your child's secondary school. What I want to do tonight...
As 150,000 parents in London agonise over a choice of secondary school for their child, we ask, is it time to separate the sexes?
Okay, good morning, everyone.
This is morning assembly at Hayes Park Primary School in Hillingdon. Devika Malik and Miles Abraham are at the back with their classmates. They've been in the same class for 6 years. But next year, everything will change as they leave these safe, familiar surroundings behind and move to the tough, competitive world of secondary school. Their parents, like those all over London, are in the midst of deciding where to send their children.
Welcome to Mellow Lane. Please do have one of our prospectuses.
Mellow Lane is the local comprehensive school for girls and boys. Today, both sets of parents are being shown round by the head teacher.
I want you to be very sure that you can ask any questions that...
In an increasingly competitive education system, Mellow Lane, like all schools, is using the hard sell.
Don't want you to do is judge Mellow Lane by its buildings. We were the 5th comprehensive school in the country. Our buildings are old, but all the banging you hear as we go round will show you we're actually doing something about that.
One of the icons is already selected in blue. It's called the File Manager.
Head teacher Rod Stafford is keen to show off the school's computer system.
They're all learning a new routine here.
Yes, a complicated routine.
A new and complicated routine.
You need to do a
With computer skills becoming vital at school and at work, it's a critical factor for parents.
After school, for example, we have a we have therefore an active club. There's a full-time technician as well that can help them.
The Maliks particularly wanted to see the science and technology departments. Devika's ambition is to be an eye surgeon, a profession dominated by men, so they're keen to ensure that girls are given an equal chance.
What is your attitude towards girls and sciences? Because this is a mixed school. Do you give equal push and encouragement to girls and boys?
Well, you may be interested to know we've actually got more female science teachers than we've got male teachers in the school, male science teachers, and the whole of our maths department is female.
There are many dilemmas for parents choosing a new school. An increasingly significant factor is whether to opt for mixed or single-sex education. Swakeleys is the local all-girls school, and the Maliks wanted to see what it had to offer. They're being shown around by head teacher Jane Trays.
Before we start, give you a copy of our prospectus, and you can read that later and ask me any questions that you want to about it. Now, the school's quite complicated, so if you follow me, we won't get lost.
Yes, indeed, good for you. Thank you.
Swakeleys has just spent over £100,000 on a new computer system.
Are most of these computers recently bought? Huh?
Yes, very recently.
I suppose you have a very ready answer when people ask you, are all girls school a good thing or not?
Well, yes, I think girls' schools are a good thing, because it is clear that in mixed schools you will very often find the boys do tend to get to the computers first. I've worked in mixed schools for many years, I'm not making this up, and here girls can use computers as freely as they like. You have to clear them out of this room with great force when it comes to registration time.
The Maliks had always thought they would send Devika to a mixed school, but now they're thinking again. The decision now hangs in the balance.
It has been a very difficult decision which school we should send her to, because sending her to a mixed school would benefit her in a lot of ways, because she's our only child and she has no brother or sister at home.
But of course, the advantages of an all-girls school, which of course is the one that interests us in this case, Devika, is in fact that school, since it only will have girls, or such a school, would have to concentrate on only girls, and therefore whatever the school offers will be available to all the girls in that school equally.
The Maliks have a difficult but crucial decision to make. Weighing heavily on their minds is the knowledge that last year's school league tables showed girls performing better academically when they were educated on their own. These results have helped revitalise the debate over the merits of single-sex education. But a surprise development intensified the argument even more. This is Shenfield School in Brentwood. It's a perfectly ordinary comprehensive, educating 950 boys and girls. At the beginning of this term, the head teacher issued a press release locally about planned changes to the running of the school. Staff expected little reaction, but what happened next astonished them.
The amount of interest we've had from the media is quite overwhelming. I mean, every single daily newspaper except two, the press, television cameras haunting the corridors, microphones, radio. We've been quite overwhelmed. And then, of course, last week we had our parents' evening where we had over 600 people come, about 3 times as many as we were expecting.
So what caused this stampede of interest? The decision to go from being coeducational to teaching boys and girls in separate classes, starting with those joining the school next year.
Evidence of a postcard. At one point, there's a picture in the pictures there. I think that's the last.
Head teacher Peter Osborne believes the new system will counter the problem of boys dominating in mixed classes and improve results.
It's quite obvious that the country is expecting more and more higher academic standards. Obviously very interested in league tables, so it seemed a very good idea that we should have something which seemed to be likely to improve academic standards.
But success in the classroom isn't the only factor. Dr. Osborne was also aware of the marketing advantages of a new system which could give him the edge in attracting parents.
The difficulty with Brentwood is that there aren't really enough children to go around, so there are not many schools that can say they're oversubscribed. The birth rate's been low for many years.
Well, now let's speak to the man responsible for the...
When GMTV ran a phone poll after an item on Shenfield, the response was overwhelmingly in favour of single-sex teaching, confirming Dr. Osborne's impression that the time had come for this idea.
Should boys and girls be separated, 4 lessons? Here's the results so far as they're coming in. 77% of you say yes, they should be.
What did Alan Clark say on that when he was interviewed?
But while parents may be heavily in favour of single-sex teaching, the education establishment is divided on the issue. Dr. Margaret Martin has taught in both mixed and single-sex schools. She's currently deputy head of Archbishop Tennyson's, a co-educational school in Croydon. It's one of the top 5 comprehensives in the country.
Education is about preparing children for their adult life in part. And therefore, surely this must take place in groups which are mixed sexually, if we're concerned about educating children in a co-educational situation. And we feel there are problems, and our response to that is to segregate the children by sex. It is as absurd as to say in a multicultural school, the response to any racial tensions that there might be within that school is to segregate the children by race.
The children here also believe they benefit from mixing with the opposite sex.
You get to know girls as like people and as friends, so when you go out in the big wide world and you have to work with them, so you have to know how to treat them really, and communicate with them is important as well.
There are advantages. You learn how to get on with them, and what they think and things, and you learn their feelings.
Our research into last year's GCSE results across 6 London boroughs found that girls, on average, did 40% better in single-sex than in mixed schools. Even when social class and type of school are taken out of the equation, girls are still more successful on their own. And a major research project by psychologists from Leicester University involving more than 1,000 pupils at mixed and single-sex schools found devastating new evidence. As computers become central to all subjects, girls are being sidelined even more.
Girls, first of all, they have less experience on working on computers at home, but they also have less experience when it comes into the classroom, i.e. boys get on the computers and the girls don't. Unless you actually monitor what goes on in classrooms, unless you ensure that girls have access to computers, to new technology, they're going to be closed out of a whole range of opportunities for the future. And I think that's really the lesson, I think the very worrying lesson from the Leicester research.
So what is it that goes wrong when adolescent boys and girls work together? We set up a simple experiment. Peter Danby runs management courses in teamwork at the Salomon Centre in Tunbridge Wells. We sent him a party of school children aged 14 to 15, randomly picked from Blackheath Harriers Athletics Club. The group was split into 3 teams, all boys, all girls and mixed. Although not a scientific test, it was designed to give a snapshot of how teenage boys and girls behave together.
Right, well, looking behind you, you may have guessed already what you're about to be going to do. You have 45 minutes from when the task actually starts to design and construct your own raft.
None of the teams spent long on drawing up a design, but the girls came up with a reasonable structure for their raft, on paper at least.
Something in the middle, guys. Of course, you take off. Unless you turn it over and just put that. Oh, yeah, that will work, won't it? 1, 2, 3. It won't. Oh, my God.
But the problems became apparent when they decided they needed to turn their raft over.
Oh, hold on. That's not the right way. I'm going to get some.
The boys' group, while not very talkative, was at least proficient at tying knots. While the mixed group was mixed in name only. It split into a girls' group and a boys' group, and the boys dominated.
No, it's not going to roll. Whatever you do with something a wider base as that, it's not going to roll, is it?
It's not going to fall over.
The girls had no choice but to take a back seat.
Then it can't fall over.
How about that goes in the middle?
Your
feet will be in the water.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
You don't lose points for getting wet feet.
We showed the film to Professor Catherine Riley, head of the Education Department at the Roehampton Institute.
I think that there were very big differences between how the girls were in the mixed group and in the single-sex group. In the mixed group, the girls stood around, they were awkward, they were sidelined. The only particular suggestions that they made to the boys were rejected and ignored.
Make sure that yeah.
I think it mirrors it pretty accurately in many schools. What you would find in a science activity, for example, what you may find is that the boys are more likely to take over the activity, to dominate the space, and interesting enough also probably to talk more than the girls. And the fact that the girls were almost pushed together in a little group is not an unusual occurrence, it seems to me.
At the end of the 45 minutes, Peter Danby asked the children how they'd done.
What's going on? Maybe some people didn't. You think?
Only a couple of people know how to do the knot, so it was really difficult because every time we flipped it round, you had to shout for someone else to do the knots up. It was
So
really
tell
hard.
me, would you have preferred to have some boys in the team for this particular?
Yeah, for strength.
Yeah,
then also the one.
Yeah.
And how do you think in a team of all boys, could you have done with any help from the girls? Would they have added anything to this team?
No. 3, 2, 1, go!
Whatever their differences, the groups had each produced a plausible-looking raft. But the real test of teamwork was still to come, getting everyone on board and paddling round the lake. The raft belonging to the mixed team disintegrated as it entered the water, and they gave up. To the surprise of everyone, not least the girls themselves, their raft held together and they all got onto it. The boys' team's raft held together, but they didn't all manage to get on. And in frustration, they cheated and towed their boat round the lake. The girls' team stuck together against all the odds and were the winners. Professor Riley believes that although a light-hearted test, this is a good example of why girls fare better in single-sex schools.
Sometimes they failed in what they were doing, sometimes they succeeded. But they were a group, they were a team, and they thoroughly enjoyed themselves.
We done it!
What was so interesting was how the degree of apprehension at the beginning and by the end, when they'd got round, it wasn't just winning, but by the time they'd got that raft round, they were so pleased with themselves, they were so confident and they were full of it.
You still think you need boys in the team?
No!
Despite the evidence, many teachers still believe that problems between the sexes in the classroom can be overcome. Science is one area where girls tend to underachieve, but last year at Archbishop Tennyson's, the girls did better than the boys.
On occasions, boys do dominate in the classroom, but a good teacher will have strategies to actually tackle those problems. It is not difficult to encourage the girls simply by addressing them by name and encouraging them and praising them when they do well. And I find very quickly girls, when they find a teacher sympathetic to them, they respond. There is no problem with boys dominating discussion, for example, or indeed being rough or difficult in the classroom.
But some experts are worried that the mixed system still fails to instill in girls the same self-confidence they gain from single-sex schooling.
The evidence has been around for 10 or 15 years about what was happening in schools. By and large, today, girls still do much better in single-sex schools than in mixed schools. Their examination performance is higher, their expectations and their aspirations are higher. And mixed schools have failed to take on these issues seriously.
If those in favour of single-sex education were to win the argument and the sexes were separated, it's likely that girls would prosper academically and become more self-confident. That'll come as a relief to parents like myself who send their girls to girls' schools. But where would it leave the boys? According to the evidence, much worse off. Boys' exam results are poorer in single-sex schools, and it seems that they miss out on an important moderating influence that girls can provide. Hackney Downs is an all-boys comprehensive. Its exam results are among the lowest of any school in the borough. Built to take 900 pupils, today it has only 500. A victim of parents' waning faith in single-sex schools for boys, it's not popular locally. Recent research by Morey for Hackney showed twice as many parents preferred mixed to single-sex schools for their sons. This confirmed the borough's decision that drastic action was needed.
We have 4 very successful girls' schools, 2 boys' schools, both of which are undersubscribed. We took the view that we needed to retain all our secondary schools in the borough to accommodate for the projected rising roles. And we also had to take very seriously into account parents' views during the consultation that there is need for another mixed school within Hackney. On the basis of all of that, we decided that it was important to convert this campus into a mixed school.
Right, now, count how many of these there are, okay? Leaflets. Otherwise, you're going to get lost. And if I were you, I'd start in the middle, there.
So you have to draw the frames and everything, yes?
Yes.
But with 4 popular single-sex girls' schools in the borough, there are likely to be problems attracting girls to the new mixed Hackney Downs. And the difficulties for girls in a mixed setting are at their worst when they're heavily outnumbered.
Take your time, the speed,
In terms of the
entails responsibilities for class.
It won't be an easy transition, as Daphne Gould, the support head teacher helping to organise the change, admits.
I think that one has to prepare those boys who are already here for a considerable change in their attitude, and that they are going to need to accept girls and, one hopes, women on terms of equality. Now, at the moment, I don't feel that that happens in the school, and I think that's something that we as a whole staff will need to take on board.
Hackney Down's dilemma is so great that they're now even considering some segregated classes for girls, in effect a limited version of the scheme that Shenfield will be introducing next year. But will it work? Well, just 20 minutes from here, we found a mixed school where boys and girls have been taught separately for 2 decades. In fact, it's where Shenfield got the idea from. Molsham School in Essex looks like a typical London comprehensive. It has nearly 1,500 pupils and takes a full age range from 11 to 18. But when the bell rings for lessons, the uniqueness of this school becomes apparent. At Molsham, separate classes for boys and girls are a matter of course for all core subjects up to GCSE level, although there are some mixed lessons from age 14 and a fully mixed sixth form.
Okay, thanks. Right, now turn right 60.
This school, where there is a balance between being taught in single-sex groups, but actually clubs and societies, before and after school, in the corridors you're mixing, I think parents see that as a good compromise, a good balance between perhaps sending them to a wholly single-sex school or sending them to a mixed school.
But what's the evidence it works for girls and, just as importantly, for boys?
I'm getting there slowly. Well, no, but you've got an electric oven, haven't you?
In the classroom, it seems popular, with teachers and with pupils.
The girls are much, much more mature and sensible in Year 9, and therefore you do have a different kind of discipline level as well with your class. I think the boys, on their own, are very enthusiastic. It's new to them, whereas the girls probably cook quite a lot at home any rate. So they come in very enthusiastic, very keen to learn. So I actually enjoy taking boys on their own, yes.
It's a lot quieter. I think you're less distracted as well. Less distracted from the work.
Don't forget to observe what happens when you drop it.
Nationally, in science, boys achieved 30% more GCSE passes than girls last year. Significantly, at Molsham, girls consistently perform as well as boys.
Teaching boys and girls in single-sex groupings has the advantage that when you have the boys on their own and the girls on their own, both groups don't feel that they have to put on a show for the opposite sex.
I think that in this school the system is really good because all the core subjects such as maths, science, English, they're taught in single-sex classes, and so there's less distractions from boys, but in the options it's all taught in mixed sex, so you get boys' opinions on everything, and when you go out to work, when you finally leave school, then there are going to be men around, and so you get used to working with them.
At Molsham's open evening, parents are looking for evidence that separating sexes can be good for boys as well as girls. Head teacher Dr. Nichols has no doubts.
How do you separate out the success of the school, the factors that contribute to that success? How do you separate out the effect of single-sex education, say, from the effects of what I would regard as sound behaviour, policies and good work ethos in the school? Very, very difficult. What, of course, you're looking for is trends that are different from those you find in the national results. And we do find them. Before this year, our boys' and girls' results were within 1% of each other, and were both over 50%, well above national norms. Now, that's quite exciting for us.
More than half Molsham's pupils go on to A-levels, and this in an area with 2 grammar schools. Parents are impressed.
Well, we're not actually in the catchment area for this school, but we've heard some very good reports about it. Several things. The discipline is meant to be very good, which we firmly believe in, don't we? And also the fact that they do teach children in single sexes up until the 6th form, which we feel, as we've got a daughter, we feel this is very important.
This is one of sort of several schools in the area that we've seen over the last 2 weeks on their open evenings. I was particularly interested in coming here tonight, A, because of their views and teachings as far as single-sex education is concerned, and also because of their the academic nature of the teaching that's involved here. I'm sort of quite impressed with that. So that was one of the main reasons. I must say I've been very, very impressed.
Some critics still believe the Molsham system creates an unreal environment which won't help prepare girls for the world outside. According to our investigations, no other education authority is willing to say that they plan to introduce the scheme. But for parents concerned with exam results, it would be popular. The Maliks, like parents all over London, have only a straight choice at the moment between single-sex and mixed education. After days of heartache, they've made their decision.
During the ages of sort of 11 up to 16 or so, it perhaps does help in some respects for a girl in particular to have the opportunity to develop in a school, in an all-girls school. And we believe that Swakeleys would be the better choice for Devika.